we think of climate change, it's hard to imagine it as anything other than an abstract concept. It's a strange, scary, but shapeless idea, one that we struggle to imagine taking place in our cities, affecting our lives on a day-to-day basis. I recently read an article in City Lab that did a really good job of remolding this shapeless entity, recontextualizing it in a way that showed how, for many people, it's already happening. They just don't know it's climate change. Most importantly, for those that are already experiencing it, socioeconomic factors at play in the environment mean that some are feeling it more than others. Studies have shown that cities throughout the United States are already experiencing the effects of the urban heat island, the noticeable increase in temperatures that occurs as a result of the urban landscape. However, within these urban environments, it's also becoming clear the low-income and minority neighborhoods are significantly more likely to experience higher heat levels than higher-income, predominantly white neighborhoods. The findings of a paper published in January titled "The Effects of Historical Housing Policies on Resident Exposure to Intra-Urban Heat" found that neighborhoods formed by redlining policies were on average 5 degrees warmer than other neighborhoods. Redlining is a process employed by both state and private actors to segregate people of color within isolated communities. From the 1930s onwards, these processes denied people of color equal access to healthcare, education, and financial services. All these factors combined restricted people of color from purchasing property both inside and outside of their communities, and concentrating them in neighborhoods with low rates of home ownership and high rates of subsidized housing and rentals. As property values dropped, developers took advantage of the existing power imbalances, limiting residents' ability to mobilize against them. The disenfranchised residents within these communities couldn't stop the construction of large, state-backed revitalization and development initiatives that rampantly bisected the low-income minority neighborhoods in cities across the United States. These developments not only further segregated and disenfranchised these already struggling communities, they also had environmental consequences. These projects were often built in high-density clusters and constructed out of inexpensive heat-retaining materials, such as asphalt, cinder blocks, cement, and brick. In comparison, developments in non-redline areas were more likely to be built from different materials and dispersed across a more natural maintained landscape, allowing for greater circulation of air. Coupled with the fact that these new developments removed and replaced greenery, their overall result was the creation of modern communities unable to regulate heat. Instead, they retain it. Researchers at Northern Kentucky University recently published a study analyzing the distribution of trees in relationship to race and income. Across the 7 cities they studied, they found that wealthier neighborhoods were more likely to have more and denser tree cover. Cities whose tree density correlates along racial lines were also located within arid climates, uncovering a major unspoken concern. Trees aren't always an amenity. When it's up to residents to take care of their trees, even ones put there by the municipality, it can be a cost and a time burden, especially in places where water comes at a premium. Addressing the exacerbated effects of climate change in these locales can't be solved simply by planting more trees. When working within these neighborhoods, policymakers have to listen to the needs of communities of color and provide for socioeconomic barriers. Not only do cities need to factor equity into the location and provision of plantings, they must provide the resources necessary for long-term support in areas where maintenance is a burden. The policies of the past created the conditions that led to this outcome. Curbing the urban heat island effect requires a major shift in the current policies of both federal and local government actors. they must accept that it is their responsibility to make reparative investments within and for existing marginalized communities. Unless increasing social and environmental equity becomes a standard procedure, climate change will only worsen systemic inequalities.